Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today. As always, my name is Goliath and I'm going to be doing a video today on cord cutting. Now, I have had a bit of apprehension about even doing a video on this because to me this is very serious and it's very important. And I was asked in my Q&A whether I could do a video talking about cord cutting. So I decided that I would. You can probably hear a little bit of sound bowl music in the background. This is not a baneful style magic, and it is not a magic that is used to harm or hurt or bring retribution or anything like that. This is more of a releasing ceremony that I have done from time to time. Now, rather than just jump straight into a big epic video, I am going to place this video on pause and I'm going to give you a little bit of an audio on my thoughts on cord cutting before I walk you through the actual process of doing this. As you can see, this is my personal ritual that I do that I am sharing with you. So please bear in mind that it is my way of doing things and everyone's way is of course different. And before I even get into doing this and giving you the rundown, I really want to have a really real chat about the psychology that is really required when it comes to this level of ritual or deeper magic when it comes to cord cutting. And so I want to really get into the heart and soul of what this is. So if you'd like, and you don't want to hear my thoughts on it and you don't want to get too involved in, my thoughts, then that's okay. I totally get it. What I'll do is I'm going to place the cord stamp or not the cord stamp, the time stamp down the bottom of the video. So you can just go ahead and skip to that part of the video if you feel called to, and then you can just get into the ritual element of this. It is quite simple, as you could imagine, but I would rather take the time to really talk about what cord cutting is and also, for the most part, is it really necessary? Okay, so please join me in this deep dive today on cord cutting. Otherwise, you can skip ahead to the ritual part of the video, and I hope that you enjoyed that part too. So I'll see you in the audio recording. Okay, bye. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the recording. So let's get into the chat and a bit of my thoughts and the psychology behind cord cutting. If you are new to esoterica or the occult or spirituality, you may not know what the term cord cutting is. So what ultimately cord cutting really is that you are severing an energetic tie or a cord with someone that you have connected to. It could be a person, not just someone. It could be an animal. It could be a location. It could be geographically a memory, a place that, well, not so much a memory, but a physical place in the physical world. So we have to understand that when we talk about things like this, we understand that there is a physical world in the 3D density of reality here, but there is also a spirit world, or what others may call the astral plane. And there are also other realms and other levels to that plane. But I don't want to get too caught up in the terminology because it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve me. What we need to get to is the heart and the crux of what this is. So you are at a point in your life where you want to sever a tie or a relationship with a person that you feel that you need to cut it. It's toxic. And in most cases, and for the point of this video, I'm going to just get real and say in most cases it would probably be a toxic friend. It could be a toxic ex that won't go away. It could be a toxic family member. And we've all been there. We all have people in our lives that just really don't understand us don't have our best intentions at heart and or are controlling, overbearing, da 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 da. Whatever your reason is for wanting to do a cord cutting, that is between you and the universe, and it's very personal. So you've got to have a valid reason to think about doing something like this. Now, this video may shock you, but I just want to be really real. First of all, I feel like there is a massive misconception about what cord cutting is. And it seems that since spirituality has become such a fast, instant, snap your finger, quick fix thing that everything can be simply done with some little energetic cut. And it's just not the case. And I see a lot of videos that pop up and they talk about cord cutting, or they talk about people talking about cord cutting, whatever. And it generally tends to be with light workers, and God bless them. You know, it is very admirable and it's very sweet and it's lovely, but it's not actually rudimented in any form of reality. And that's why I will say, contrary to me even doing this video, and I'm going to do the video, I'm going to get to the ritual part, so please don't think that I'm not. I'm going to show you how to do it. But what I'm saying here is I actually advise against it. So that's right. I completely advise against cord cutting. 9 times out of 10, any cord cut that you try to do is probably not going to work. Even 10 times out of 10, it's probably not going to work. And I don't want to go into the heavy complexities of it. But what I am going to say is that, firstly, all humans are actually connected. I know it's hard to hear that, but there is actually only one physical being on the planet. We're all fractals of source. We're all separate from each other. Yes, I have a beating heart that is separate from you, but we're all beams of light that's come down from source, like rays of light from the sun. We're all from the same thing. And we're all expressing ourselves in our God-given way, and that's so important that we do, and more power to you. But the concept of separation is actually not possible. You cannot separate yourself from that of what you are. You can have delusions about what you are, but you can't actually separate yourself. Why is that, you might think? Oh no, Goliath, why? Well, it's because basically we're all fractals of each other, mirroring back to each other, having the experience. So all of the lessons and all of the things that we teach each other through trauma, through expansion, is actually part of the human experience. And this is where people get really deluded about this. And as much as a lot of the light workers think they're doing light work, it's actually not light work. It's actually ridiculous. Okay? So we have to understand, in the Hermetic principles, the law of resonance is the law of attraction. You can only attract what you are. You cannot attract what you are not. So like I said before, when I see people talking about opposites attract, that is not actually possible. That's not how energy works, okay? It's not possible. You can have differences, but the similarity in the vibration of energy can only match that of what it is. And I know that's hard to hear. I know, and we see that in nature as well. Like, you know, I know this is going to sound hard for some people to get their head around, but eagles will fuck other eagles. Eagles don't fuck pigeons, okay? They don't fuck hawks. So that of what it is what it is. So to deny of what you are is actually quite dangerous, because it's diluting your sense of reality. And when we get to the fundamentals of magic or witchcraft, we have to really work with what is real. So it's very, very hard to sustain something that is not real. So we have to have a very tight grip on reality. And I have to have the balls, and I have to have the courage to face myself in the mirror in my shadow work, because there is a shadow element to cord cutting, which I have to take accountability for, where I'm going to look at myself in the eyes and say, whatever version I was, and there's been so many versions of me to get to this version of me, like we all do, we're all upgrading, or we should be, I have to get to a point where I can look at myself and say, I was a vibrational matching point for this person. Even if they, as toxic as they were, I was a vibrational matching point for this level of the way that went. Now, some people get really hung up on that, and they might be getting mad in me saying that, because what I'm actually doing is I'm making you take accountability for your part in it. Remember, it takes two to tango, okay? And so at the rudimented center of a connection in a chord, there is an experience that must be experienced. And for you to come in arrogantly and just think that you can just cut that cord and cut that energetic connection is actually quite dangerous, because what it can do is shut down the future lessons that haven't occurred yet with that vibration or with that person. So it's actually, this is the part where I would say here is that you really need to really consider what you're doing. I'm asking you to consider what you're doing. Now, when it comes to cord cutting, energetically, how I approach this is not baneful magic. We're not hurting someone. We're not wanting to cause them harm or grief. What we are doing is we're releasing them. This is light magic. It's nice, it's simple, and it's a thing for you that I believe that the crux of it really is that you're letting this person go. Okay, you've come to a point where you realize that you are no longer a vibrational match to this person, but they may not realize that. Okay, and that's where this can get really messy. So we've got to be really understanding that when we go there and we want to cut the cord to that relationship, we have to be really real about it. So it's no different to if I was a gardener and I came into a garden and there was a weed or a plant, flower, whatever, and I just get the scissors and I just cut the top off the weed off the top of the ground of the earth. Well, it looks visually like I've done something. Yeah, it does. Like I can't see the weed in here. I've removed the weed. I've amputated that weed at the top that I didn't want anymore. But rudimented underneath in the ground is still going to be the root system. So that is at some point going to grow back. So we have to go for what I call a removal of a cord, not a cord cutting. So re-clarifying that. When I go there and I want to do something like this, I want to remove that person. Cord cutting is a temporary thing. Say if there was a cord between you and me and there was a piece of rope or string or twine and I just sever the middle part of it, it's still got cords flapping around. They can still reattach. What we need to do is go root deep into the law of attraction, into the vibrational match, and look at why that occurred. Where did that connection begin? And that's where we do the real healing. And this is where it gets incredibly painful, because we have to be willing to own our part in that. Now, cord cutting to me really is, I know it's hard to hear and you might get offended, and please know I'm not trying to have a dig at you or be mean to you or unkind to you. I am trying to be as sympathetic and loving as I can in this video. I really want to be really gentle with this video because I've been there. Really, cord cutting really for me is something that, or cord removal is something that you would do in the aftercare or in the aftermath of a relationship. It's not something that you're going to do while you're in a relationship. Now, I've had people come to me and ask me questions like, can I do a cord cutting? And then I'm like, well, I need to look at the variables. I need to look at all of the factors that would come into account. And then they say, we're still in a relationship, or we still share kids, or we still live in the same house, in the same space. Like, for fuck's sake, that's not realistic. All right, that is ridiculous. For a cord cutting, you need to get aggressively real. So if you share finances, if your divorce is still not finalized, if you are still splitting assets and you're still living in the same space, well, then that's going to be very difficult to perform a cord cut. You can energetically sever it, but you're not going to be able to physically remove them in your energetic space because they're still there. So we need to go and do the blocking, block them on the phone, block them on the apps, log in, create future apps, block them on those apps, block them on email. We need to finalize our affairs in the physical world before we go into the astral world and do this. And we need to be sure that this is the right course of action. You're not acting out of spite. You're not acting out of like impulsivity, because that's not the right headspace to be doing any type of magic from, ever. We don't do anything when we're feeling impulsive and we're feeling like we're in a rage. That's Bane style magic. Okay, and we're not doing that. Cord cutting or cord removal is not hurting the other person. It's letting them go. It's wishing them well. It's sending them love, and that's ultimately what it is. So let me just have a sip of the tea. I hope I'm not getting too heavy with you, but this is from my heart, and I've been there, and I know how hard it is to go through breakups with friends. I know how hard it is to go through a breakup with a partner. I have been there, I know. So please don't think it's like, oh, Goliath, you're not in a relationship, you don't know. No, I do. I've been through so many destructive relationships, and every single time I went through one, I had to go back to myself, back to look in the mirror, and I had to really, really do that shadow work and really assess where I fucked up, where I thought that this other person was something that they're not. Because 9 times out of 10, incompatibility is an all too common reality with a relationship. So we kind of have this envisioning of what we want the other person to be, but it's not really who they are. And then when they don't live up to that expectation of what we thought they were, we get bitterly disappointed, and, it gets nasty and da-da-da-da-da. Now, the type of relationship for me personally is like, I'm a Scorpio cusp Sag. So I have a very, very strong defense system around me. I have people that are trying to energetically get their hooks into me, get their claws into me, trying to, piggyback off me all the time. And it is what it is. I understand that. I shine a lot of light out into the world. I shine a lot of knowledge into the world. I have a lot of passion and energy, and I'm vivacious. And I understand that that is illuminating to people. So in a relationship for me, well, first of all, once I have the real truth of it is, when we get to cord cutting, is really about poor boundary work. You didn't lay the boundaries down properly. Now, this is very hardcore, particularly around the water signs, the Pisces, and sometimes the Scorpios, and of course the Cancerians. They have a lot of problems with this because they've got those deep, heavy, watery emotions. Very poor lack of boundary work, which leads to resentment, which leads to toxicity. And if love isn't returned, it usually turns to apathy or hatred, and it gets nasty. Da-da-da-da-da. If you had boundaries to begin with, then every time, like I would say in my heart now at 36 years of age, every time I see dysfunction or someone who lacks self-awareness, or someone who has some kind of, they're not living their truth, that to me is not workable in a relationship dynamic. So I limit my time with them, and I gently fuck them off. If they don't get the message, then that message gets louder. I can't and I won't put up with someone who's toxic coming into my life. That's why when I am now, I'm looking for a partner, I'm looking for someone that is an energetic match, so that I don't have to go through the bullshit of coming down a road that's going to end up toxic. It's going to waste my time. It's probably going to waste their time. And then in the end, it'll end up in a breakup and da-da-da-da-da. As we know, you've got to choose your partner very, very carefully so that they have what I would call an adult relationship. So I'm looking for someone who has the ability to be an adult in a relationship. Most relationships that I see are not adult based. They don't have direct communication style bases to them. So it's just, this reverse psychology shit. She pulls her affection away from him to punish him. He gives her the silent treatment. She gives him the silent, all this bullshit. In my relationship as a Scorpion cusp Sag, there is no secrets. There's no awkward silences here, okay? No way. We are actively working on our relationship to cultivate and build a life together, to build love, to build a family, to build a solid, stable base. So that base has to be based firmly on common ground and interest and ability. And yes, I know that sounds hard. Ability on many levels, across many fronts. Why? Because life is going to throw many, many curveballs at you, and you have to kind of have an answer for everything up your sleeve. So it's to build a solid, healthy, stable relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, then you really have to be on so many levels on the same page. You just do. Otherwise, it's just going to crack and crumble and it's going to fall apart. So you have to put naturally, I have a lot of defense systems around me, so it's very hard for something to infiltrate. But yeah, in terms of privacy and secrets, the only privacy that you'd be getting in a relationship with a scorpion is probably just when you go to the bathroom and shut the door. Other than that, any other time, give me your phone. Give me your phone. Here's my phone, here's the passcode. There's no secrets. We keep everything out open on the table where we can see it, and we're always checking in with each other all the time. That's not to say that we're always going to be in each other's pockets, on each other's lives, because I believe as much time as you spend together in a relationship, you need to spend equal or more time apart in the relationship as well. Okay, so we're not all up in each other's, face all the time. But that's really what it comes down to. And we keep it at a very high vibration. So it's always interesting. It's always exciting. We're always doing interesting things. We want to keep it moving and a flow to the relationship. So we're not stagnated. We're not going to be using external things like television or watching TV together. No. We're working on stuff together. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I know I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent, but I want to be real because this is where I'm at and I'm sharing the way that I interact with people. So I am very, very ruthless with my time and energy because there has to be some kind of energetic exchange there for me to validate, to even care. So it's all about truth. And that's really what it is. So any type of juvenile behavior, any type of little things where someone lacks self-awareness, you're going to start building up resentment, and it probably will end to the breakdown of a relationship. I think it was Jordan Peterson, or I'm not sure, I can't quote, I want to credit whoever said it, but basically what tends to happen in relationships, particularly with all these cords, and we have so many cord attachments to people, is that in a relationship or in a friendship or in a relationship partnership, it tends to be all of the things that were never said or dealt with all kind of come back up in the end, and it just becomes this monster which just eats the relationship. Had the two of you been upfront and open with each other from the start, then that monster wouldn't have never have formed. So I hope that made sense. So I'm trying to get down into the crux of the vibration and the connection, so you kind of get where I'm going with that. Now, as we're getting back to the topic that I wanted to look at today, is really about coming to terms with the relationship is over. All right. So we know, and I'm going to say this, I want to get really real with you. When I was back in the day doing readings, it was very, very uncomfortable when a client would come to me and I would look at their cards, or I would sit with them in a consultation with myself, and the relationship, I'd look up and say, this is over. This is over. And they'd look at me with such shock and hurt on their face, as if like, no, it's not. I'm still with them. Energetically, you can still be in a room with someone, but not be present with them. The heart connection is not there. It has faded. It's dissolved for whatever reason. We know in relationship dynamics, and I want to focus on a partnership in this scenario. As I've told you, and I'll say it again, in a relationship, it all comes down to how they make you feel. When they walk through the door, how do you make them feel? That's what it comes down to, yeah? So it's so very, very, very painful when someone doesn't realize that the relationship, that this phase or time has come to its natural conclusion, and they're just unwilling to accept that this chapter has ended. And this is where cord cutting tends to come into play, is the other party wants to cut the cord and the other person doesn't want to. Now, in terms of cord cutting, and I want to lay this down and define it. We're not cutting their cord to us. We're cutting our cord to them, all right? If I was to cut an energetic cord of someone else, then that is black magic. Yes, you are interfering with someone else's energetic frequency. And as you know, I go there, I do it, I have no shame, I go there when I need to, but it's very, very rare that I would need to do something that heavy, because it's not my place to do that. It is their sovereignty and their free will. That's what you're interfering with. So what we're doing is we're severing the tie and cord cutting to them. I think people get a bit confused about that a little bit. So we don't want animosity. We don't want to be mean to them. We're not performing a Bane style thing. We are letting it go. So this is hard. You know, you've put a lot of time and a lot of energy into this marriage or this relationship. You know, you guys used to squeeze the pimples on their back. I mean, you've been having sex. By the way, a sexual connection, generally in cord cutting, would require 2 red candles. But a sexual connection, once it gets sexual, the bond is harder to break or separate. It is. I know that sounds hard, but it just is. I think humans are kind of hardwired that way, because sexuality is hardwired into us for procreation, by the way. But I'll get onto another video with that one day, maybe. So it's really about you feeling what you feel and letting it out, letting those feelings out. I don't believe in holding on to emotions, and I don't believe in suppressing them. Emotions don't just go away. They have to go somewhere. You have to let them out. So if you need to cry and you're coming to the acceptance of the ending of a relationship and you're wanting to do a cord cutting, cry. If you are holding it in, you know, it's just not good for you. It's not healthy. And I probably need to cry myself. You know, I probably need a good cry too. I'm just like you. I'm subject to all of these human emotions. And that's what it is. So let it out. And acceptance is really the key to moving forward. We have to be able to accept that this relationship has come to its time, a breakup, okay? And it's always one of the most stressful things a person can go through. And it really is about acceptance. A big part of grief in itself, the hardest part of grief is acceptance that this person is not coming back. It's never going to be the same way it was before. Getting our head around that and integrating that is key to moving forward. Now, a lot of people are in delusion about reality. As I've said, there is no consensus usually on reality. A lot of people, I think a lot of women in particular, no offense, I'm just being honest, a lot of you have been fed this Disney lie, or they've been kind of conditioned to believe this kind of this BS Disney story that you're all kind of fed, where you're going to meet a guy or he'll show up and he'll take care of you and then you'll get married. It's all bullshit. And I think a lot of my anger as I got older was realizing a lot of the lies that I was taught about relationships or about reality and society was actually completely a falsehood. And then it was coming to terms with that reality. And I feel ripped off. I know a lot of women feel ripped off. I feel ripped off. I feel ripped off for you, because it's just not realistic. It's not Sex in the City, okay? It's not a movie. It's not television. This is reality. And one of those things about reality is that it just doesn't work the way it does on TV. There's no there's no it's not like the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or or some shit like that, where we all sit down on a couch and we all get to this kind of Q&A reunion where I can say to, hey Gigi, what did that mean for you when I said that? And then she'll be like, hey Goliath, this is what it meant for me. And then, oh, okay, this is what that's not going to happen. It's not realistic. 9 times out of 10, relationships in life end, and we don't really know why they end. We don't really have all of the facts in front of us to really assess so that we can gain that closure that we need so that we can move on, because we don't know what it meant for them. We don't know why they behave that way. And look, to be fair, a lot of people don't even know why they behave that way themselves. And then if you are holding them accountable for the way that they behave, they'll get defensive. So it's just like going up to your mum and saying, hey mum, remember that time you did this to me and you let me down, or you said something really hurtful? Well, if you come at her from that angle, she's probably going to get her back up and she's not going to answer the question. She's not going to face the behavior that she did to you. So you're not going to get the resolution. I hope that makes sense. So a lot of this is actually called, and it is a process called the completion process, where we have to, basically, it's hard to say this, but you probably haven't heard this before, but the only way to heal is to integrate. You have to understand what happened so that your higher self can close the gap and then you can move on. So if someone hurt you or cheated on you or broke up with you, your higher self or your subconscious, your crown is trying to understand why that happened so that you can move on. I hope that makes sense. So you're trying to get a resolution, but sometimes you can't include them in the resolution to get that resolution. Because why? Because they're not present. They're not able to take ownership for their own behavior. And then you have to, I know it's a process, it is. And that's why cord cutting can help in that circumstance, but it's unlikely in that, because you have to address what it was about you that was a match to it. Look, there's so many factors and dynamics to this, but basically what I'm saying is relationships of today's in society today are very, very fast paced. There's always probably a plan B going on the side the whole time that you didn't even know about. And relationships are very consumeristic. The consumption of sex in a relationship is very quick, and then it's over, and then something new starts. So it probably won't hurt them as much as it hurts you. But the deeper that your love is in that cord, in that connection, is the harder it's going to feel when it all, you fall on your land on your back and you hit your skull. And we've all been there. Now, I don't know, like for me personally, I know it sounds hard, but if you've got some kind of open relationship where other people are allowed to fuck your partner, is that really something that you could really say was claimed as your own, when you're also opening up a relationship dynamic for other people to share something with your partner that you do as well? So we've got to be really realistic about telling the truth about the cord connection. Because if you're sharing a cord connection with someone and then they share that cord connection with everyone else and you're giving them permission to do that, you're opening yourself up for some deep pain, because we know humans are hypergamous in nature. They're always looking and asking, is this the best that I can do? Is this the betterment of my future? I know that sounds hard, but that's science, guys. We know that's true. So yeah, it really depends on the level of relationship. But when it comes to cheating, it is absolutely crippling, particularly because all of tomorrow is that all of you see of tomorrow is that person. So yes, it's a very complicated thing. And it's not as simple as people would think when it comes to cord cutting. I'm just going to get a bit of string and I'm just going to cut this cord and then it's all just going to go away. Well, no, it's not all just going to go away. It's still there. It's still embedded in there. The lesson that you've entwined with that person, there would have been a contract or a soul contract on some level of intertwining of those cords. So to come in and cut that, it's just not, it's not healthy. And I don't think it's as simple as that. So yeah, although I'm still into doing it, the best thing to do for me is when it's over, it's over. Okay. So I'd rather focus on the good parts of the relationship than focus on where it all went sour and got nasty. I don't want to ever talk badly about my partner or my ex-partner. I just want to let them go and wish them luck and move on. And yes, the new world can only be built on the foundation of the old world. So if you're still living in the past of that old dynamic, it's going to be very difficult to move on if you're still in it. So doing things that could be symbolic to you could really help. So changing the locks on the door. It could be changing the furniture around. It could be throwing their stuff out on the street, giving it away, letting them, like for me, you've got one day to come and get your stuff in a box out the front. I'm a Scorpion. Yep. So you come and get your shit. It's done. You can send someone on your behalf to collect it. Not a problem. You want to be amicable to a sense. But to some point, if they've betrayed you, well, yeah, that's where you have the right to be angry. Yes. Maybe change the mattress. Anything that represents a change for you, that you are severing your relationship tie with this person is really what it is. Okay, so that's what, in the sense of a breakup, that's what it really is. Yeah. So I hope that made sense, and I'm not, I'm not yabbering on too much. Yeah. So energetically, cords all are there for a reason. So we have to have a really valid reason to want to sever the tie. And to do a cord cutting ritual, this is something that you may do multiple times. Generally, you might have severed the cord and you're really separating yourself from this person. Quintessentially, you're drawing a line in the sand that is saying, in this moment in my life, I'm taking a stand. I'm drawing a boundary. I'm severing the connection. So obviously, if we're severing the connection, tomorrow morning, we're not going to text them. We are wishing them well and we're fucking them off. We're letting them go back. So any type of visualization meditation could be really good for this, particularly around healing, because this is healing. Okay, so in order to let something go, we're opening up space for something new to come in. So we see them. A good visualization exercise would be, you see all this light around them in a doorway and they're walking towards the light and they're walking away from you. They've turned their back on you. They're moving away from you. So separating yourself energetically, vibrationally from them can take a long time, particularly if you are in a marriage. Now, I've had women come to me in readings before and ask me to do a cord cutting on behalf of them for them. No, cord cutting is always best done from the person that is cutting the cord. I don't really believe so much in a third party doing it. It can be done. It can be done. Please don't get me wrong. It can, by a very experienced Reiki master or a shaman. But what that could require a couple of sessions. It's not going to be a quick fix. Like I said, you have to change something in your head to separate the vibrational connection of frequency to that person. And I have seen this done before. On a table, a woman was able to wiggle her fingers around another man's stomach and was able to vibrationally pull those cords out of the other person. Energetically, it is possible, but that would require a very, very talented spiritualist to do that successfully. I personally don't believe so much in that level of magic. It's not something that really kind of doesn't turn me on. It's not my cup of tea, but you can go to someone who can do this. Yes. Cord cutting can be tricky because we can also have connections in past lives, and then that person's come back through into this life. So it's kind of intertwining into karma. Do you understand where I'm going with this? I hope that you do. That's why to sever something energetically can change. It can shake up the frequency of tapestry. It's like all of these cords that are all tied together and all weaved together. Think of like Hercules, where it's like all of the the cords, when she's like, the fates cut the cords with the scissors. Yeah, we're all intertwined with each other's lives. So to cut one cord or to cause chaos here will shift something over there. It's all a balancing act, if that makes sense. But yes, I had a woman come to me and she wanted me to do a cord cutting against her ex-husband. And when I looked into it a little bit further, by the way, before we do any type of energetic spell work, we're always going to consort with the cards. We're always going to consort with divination. 9 times out of 10, we can see the outcome of what the spell possibly could be before we even bother attempting something on that level. It may not be necessary to go there. It's always best to get an overall view of something before we jump straight into things. Luckily, I am a medium. I could sense it. What she wanted me to do in this case is that she wanted to separate her kids from her husband, and she wanted me to help do that. And I wasn't prepared to do that because, why? A, because she was being a spiteful bitch, but B, because he has a right to the connection of his kids. He's not a bad father. He doesn't hit them. He doesn't torture them. He's not abusive. It's just her being a spiteful bitch. So a lot of women, a lot of people, men and women, they both use kids as pawns in their divorce. It's disgusting behavior. The children have a right to be with their father, all right? And whatever capacity that is, as long as it's safe, you don't get to remove a cord on someone else's behalf. I will not do that, and I won't be a part of it. That's not, I go into dark magic, but that is not for me. That's absolutely ridiculous. So it's not your place to remove a cord that someone else has. You're not going to be doing that, okay? You're just not. It's part of their karmic lesson. It's part of their soul tribe. It's part of their experience in this consciousness. It's just not realistic. It's not for you to override other people's energetic links to other people. It's just, we just don't do it. So I hope that made sense. So you've got to really ask yourself, what is this lesson teaching me? Is this lesson learned? Is it come full circle? I've severed all the ties. There's no more reason for this person to contact me. I've asked them to not contact me. And then you go there. Now, I have a lot of stalkers over the years. A lot of women and men have stalked me. I've got one woman for over 10 years that I've never met her, still stalks me, da-da-da-da-da. It's been a court case. It's terrible to go through this. But energetically, I'm at peace with it. When this person messages me or contacts me or tries to infiltrate my friends or my family, it doesn't affect me anymore because I've energetically severed something in my subconscious. I've gone in there and I've gone, click, no more. You could be standing right in front of me and you'll have no effect on me. I never reply. I never acknowledge. I just ignore it. I don't see it, touch it, smell it, or hear it. It's not there. Energetically, in my heart, in my astral body, I have removed that. Now, there is danger in this. This is a danger of cord cutting that I would say in part of the reason of not doing it is against it, is that if you have a stalker or someone who could hurt you and you're severing your tie to them, you could potentially sever a safety mechanism. So they could be around you, trying to break into your house, trying to energetically get around you, and you've severed your awareness to that connection. Well, that could actually render you in trouble. That could render you powerless because you've just gone in and gone, nah, severed, but they're still there. So yet again, you've got to be very careful with cord cutting. So it is what it is, but yeah. I hope that all made sense. We've got to really be prepared to, just as I always say, we've got to always tell the truth. Even if it was a messy breakup, you have to really look at it and get serious about it. I hope that made sense. Anyway, so there's some of the pros and cons and a little bit of a deeper chat about cord cutting. So I'm going to jump back into my video where I show you how I would go about doing the cord cutting. Now, before you go into cord cutting, it's best to really be relaxed and be really ready to do this. If you're not ready to let this go, then it's just not the right time for you and you come back another time. There's no forcing it. If you want to stop, there's no stop starting. Do you, but I would say if you're going to go to the effort to do it, then be ready. You've crossed your I's, you dot your T's, and I'll see you in the video where I show you how to do a cord cut. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy it. Hello and welcome to my cord cutting ritual video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm just going to get straight into the video. I'm starting to clear my space. You can probably hear some really nice sound bath music that I've got going on. And I'm just going to clear the space. So I did do a bit of an audio recording talking about what this is and my thoughts and feelings on cord cutting. And now I'm just going to get into the video. I'll give you a little bit of a tour of the space that I've set up today. As you can see, I am on my dining table, and I have all of my witchy tools here to kind of give you a sense of how I like to go about this. I've got my amethyst cave there, and some more gentle and soft pieces which I wanted to visually help me, which helps me get into the state, my gold cobra and a crystal skull. But most importantly, I have the salt pentagram, which I have put there, and I'm going to explain why that's there in a minute. So I'll just place the camera back down. Okay. Now, I did the pentagram with salt first, very easy to get a hold of. Do I use black salt? No. Why do I use white salt? Because it's for purification. We are purifying this energy, this ritual, this space, and the incense is also helping me. I've got a sage incense. If you've got Palo Santo, that might even be more beneficial for you, but whatever works best for you. So let's just breathe in. Okay, that's looking pretty good to me. So for this, the way that I like to do it, I perform this generally when a relationship has come to its time. It is time for me to let this individual go, and it's time for me to move on. I have already severed everything that I needed to do with this person, so there is no more reason for contact. They can contact me, but I energetically will not respond how they want me to, because I've already let them go. Okay, so we're cutting the link that we have to them. We're not cutting their link to us. I hope that makes sense. So with the pentagram, let's have a look here. I have, as you can see, I have two candles that are both twined together. Now you can use regular string, or you can use twine in this case. As you can see, that's what I've done, and I have them side by side. Usually one may be a little bit higher than the other. Now, candle color doesn't really matter so much. Generally for cord cutting, it probably would be white, and I would have gone with white, but I didn't have any available, and so I went with black. It doesn't matter. If it was a friendship, or if it was a lover, it probably would be pink or blue. If it was a very sexual connection, then the candle color probably would be red. Now, what I've done here is at the top point of the pentagram, this ritual, or this breakup ceremony, cord cutting ceremony, must be done on an altar space that is facing north. Okay, don't ask me so much why. I just am telling you that north is the best way to go about performing a cord cutting ritual. So what north represents on the pentagram is the furthest point away from you, and the two of the candles that we have here in the ritual are placed side by side on either side. So north, south, east, and west. So we're separating. The idea of this is that we are cord cutting. So we are separating the connection of these two candles. The two candles both signify me and the other party, or the other party and me, whichever. So you could have a different color candle if you so choose. In my case, it doesn't really matter so much. But the idea of this is that we are breaking this apart. we are absolutely destroying it. And we have come at peace and come to terms with the fact that this will be unbreakable. We have moded it, we've set it in intention. Now, one of the things that you could also do is you might place a parchment of paper underneath one of the candles, and it will be a petition or more of a statement, or even if you so choose, it could also be a letter to the other person. And that letter will be, dear Tom, John Smith, whatever, I let you go. And get it out there, really get it out. If you feel that you need to take a minute to meditate, go and lay on the floor and breathe, cry, let it out. Let all of the pain that this person has caused you out of you. I might dare even say, if you could save some of your teardrops, you may even choose to drop a few of those teardrops and rub it on the candle that represents the other person as a representation for the pain that they have caused you. Because ultimately what we're doing is we're severing the energetic suffering that this person has caused you, because that pain and that trauma is percolating through your body. And as you know, when we go through pain or trauma, that pain manifests in different parts of the body, particularly for women, if it is in the lower sacral area, for obvious reasons, penetration or whatever. So there could even be energetic traces there, as we know through science that there is actually energetic traces that are left in the body from people that we have had sexual exchanges with on very microscopic and minute levels. But we're not looking at the physical element of this. What we're focusing on is the astral link that we are severing. Now, when we go and sever a link in the astral world, time and space doesn't exist. So you could be doing this cord cutting ritual where you're cutting here through the cord, and that other party may actually already be dead on the other side. The other party may actually be on the other side of the planet. It doesn't matter where they are. What we're doing is say, if we're this candle, then we are saying and stating our claim that this is time for this dynamic to end. It must end, and it's going to end. Now, on the pentagram, of course, we have earth, air, fire, water. And the furthest point away, the north point that I showed you before, is also, of course, a representation of spirit. And we're pushing this off into the spirit world. So the pentagram needs to face in the way that I have got it here. That's where I'm sitting. This is how I would do it. Now, I would also place things or objects that the other party had around that candle base. Mostly it could be a photo, or it could be the letter that you've just written. When I was young, my mum told me that if I wrote a letter and I put it in the fireplace, that I could send it to heaven. And this is kind of that symbology, is that we're using the element of fire to burn down the connection and release it to the spiritual world. Okay, so we don't want to hold any more resentment. We don't want to hold any more pain in our heart. We're healing it. We've processed it. We've come to terms with it. And we understand that it is time to let this chapter of our life with this person go. We're severing our link to them. When they stand before us, we won't hear them. We won't see them. They will just simply fade away, and they are gone. They can't hurt us. And the protection of the salt in the pentagram is about that. This is about protection. So after you've performed the ritual, and it can take as long as it needs to take, you will go and have a cleansing bath. If you have some hyssop or bath salts, then that would be a really good idea. And all of the things that we needed to get out of the house that may have been left from them has now been given back to them, or it has been destroyed. If it was a messy relationship, I'd probably throw all of their shit into a fireplace and burn it. As you know, I don't fuck around, and I don't like my time being wasted. So when it's over, it's over. I've stated the claim, and I will not be coming back to that person ever again. Okay? So when we are ready, and only when we're ready, we're going to meditate on the floor for quite a while. I like to usually do this on the floor. The flowers here that I have, these dried flowers, represent the love connection. So this, in this case, would be the connection of the representation of love to me. This represents love or care of a person, as you can see. And I've placed that object on my side of the pentagram here. Now, you can use twine. Like I said, twine is a very good way to do it. If you have the time, what you could do, and if you have an element of their DNA or their hair, you may even twine their hair into the twine itself. So when you tie the bond to the two candles, you have a genetic, energetic imprint of the person or the target that we are linking, but that's not necessary. I also have this beautiful heart that I was gifted by a friend of mine, and if you're watching this video, thank you so much. I really treasure this heart. It's a beautiful thing. So I may place that on my altar space as well, which really represents the heart chakra and what I am severing. As we know, different connections will be stored in different chakras of the body. Okay, so in this case, it is a love connection that I'm wanting to sever. I've also got some rose quartz there as well, and of course, crystals. So when we're ready, and there is no right or wrong when you're ready, in this case, I have my atame, my black dagger, my ritual dagger, and that is one of the tools that I use for my workings of this nature, okay? You don't have to have one, it's not completely necessary, but in this case for me, I choose to do this. And I feel that if I'm going to do a cord cutting or a severing of this and slicing this connection in half, then I like to get a little bit into it, and I like to get a little bit dramatic, a severing of a little candle, that's too light for me. I really like to make, get into it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so what I would generally do is we've got the photos, we've got their objects. If you could find like a cigarette butt that they smoked, you might put that underneath there. Anything that represents that person. This doesn't have to be done necessarily with love in your heart, although it is best to let it go. It could be a hate connection that you just don't want to hold on to anymore. But what we are saying here in this cord cutting connection is that we are drawing a line in the sand, that we no longer want the connection, we are severing the connection, and we are breaking it, smashing it, never ever to come back again. We're stepping up to the spiritual world, and we're showing that we are serious about this, and it is time for this to be done. Now, photo and letter underneath the candle. Now, there could be a couple of different ways you can do this. What you could do is you could actually get a candle, if you like, where the two people are back to back, like a separation candle. And then, of course, you'd light the wick because the wick would be joined together. That's an option. In some cases, if you've got the availability to get a fancy candle, then you can do that. But if you don't, it's okay too. In some cases, there's different ways to do it. What I'm saying is it's just really about what feels right for you. But I will say, when we step up to the spiritual world, we don't do things that we are not comfortable with. If this ethically doesn't feel right for you, then please don't do it, okay? Please don't. Because when we mess with the astral world, it can have, and it will have, an effect determined by your own ability. So now I'm going to place my atame on the altar space that I have here, and it's going to be facing north. And in some cases, I may even hold the blade over the top of the flame. This is the separation part that I'm going to do, all right? So I'm just going to give you a bit of a demo. I'm going to hold the knife into the fire. It's going to start to burn the knife. It may even go black, as you can see. Okay, and then I'm going to get myself really, really, really into state. Really, really there. Really thinking about letting this person go, what this person did to me, and how I am severing my tie with them, really, really letting them go. When I'm ready, if I would like to do it this way, if you'd like to do it this way, what you're going to do, you're going to take the blade, come in a little bit closer, and we're going to slice through, as you can see, we're just going to slice through each one of these cords. If you don't have a knife, you can use a pair of scissors. That's okay too. Or if you'd like, in my case today, rather than using a tame, this is a symbolism of cutting the cord. What you can do, and what I would do, is I would get the 2 candles and I would place them over the top of this. Now, what obviously is going to happen, the fire is symbolic of burning the connection to the ground. Eventually, the twine will begin to catch on fire and we will see the energetic break. We've also lit the 2 top candles here as well, and we're going to let them burn all the way down to the wick, and that will show us the symbolism of the connection breaking. Okay? If you'd like to help the candle, you can. It's really, really up to you. But you're releasing it, you're claiming what you are stating is that this person and your time with them is ending. It is ended, it is done. And that is the crux of a cord cutting connection, okay? So I'm kind of giving you the visual element of how you would do this, and we would watch the cords burn. And each time we watch those burn, whether it burns directly through or not, we're stating what that cord might be, okay? There we go. We're just stating what it is, and we're letting that cord burn. There we go. Might even blow it out. And now we blow that out. We're letting it go. And as we're snuffing out the flame, we're also blowing out the energetic link between us and the other person. We're letting it go. Okay? This link is no more. I break this cord. I separate this cord. It is gone. And so mote it be. So that is a little bit of a cord cutting ceremony of how I would go about it. Now I would go have a little meal or a drink, go hop in the bath, and I would cleanse myself and really shifting my mind. So every time this person comes back into my train of thought, they fade away, and that is done. And that is as simple as it needs to be, and you take your time with it. But I hope that you've enjoyed this video, giving you a little bit of an example of cord cutting. And please leave your comments below if you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like me to do another video on another topic, I may consider it. And healing and blessed be to you.